The common mistake number one that many employers and specifically startups in California make is misclassifying an employee who should be paid hourly as exempt manager, who is being paid a fixed annual or monthly salary regardless of how many hours that person works per day or per week. And this happens most often with the managers, with the people who the employer believes or would like to believe satisfy the requirements of the managerial exemption. And at some point, a new employer such as a startup learns that they can avoid paying overtime to an employee who is a manager, who is a true manager, and they can just pay him a fixed same amount every month and every year. However, under the law, that person has to be a true manager. He has to satisfy all the specific requirements that the law provides in order to truly qualify for that exemption. And one of these factors, one of these criteria that is often misunderstood and misapplied or interpreted way too broadly by employers, especially new and less experienced employers, is this requirement that in order to be classified as an exempt manager, the employee has to exercise significant discretion and independent judgment in performance of their duties. Often, an employer wishes that a particular employee was a manager, so they start interpreting this requirement way too broadly. And I have seen some absurd situations and absurd conclusions by employers where they would classify receptionists and secretaries as exempt managers, and they would say, look, I believe that my receptionist or my secretary is properly classified as exempt because I pay her twice the minimum wage as the law requires, and she also exercises independent judgment and discretion. And then I would ask, well, where's the independent judgment and discretion here? Well, the employer says, she makes her own schedule. She decides when she's taking breaks and when she's taking lunches. She also decides how to greet customers who call us when she picks up the phone. She also decides what kind of software to use when she prepares documents, Excel, PowerPoint, Word. She also designs certain documents for us. She designs our business cards. She designs our letterhead and so forth. This is not the type of stuff that the law contemplates that would qualify as discretion and independent judgment. It has to be something more meaningful. Otherwise, anything we do would be considered an independent judgment, including breathing, opening our eyes, moving our body. This is not the stuff that the law is talking about. It has to be something far more meaningful, something that makes an employee a true manager. Often, this is a close call. It's not clear whether the duties satisfy this independent judgment and discretion requirement or not. And this is why it's a very good idea for every new employer to consult with an attorney, with an experienced employment attorney, where they can go over the duties of an employee or a group of employees in great detail and determine whether there is a risk of misclassification and how that risk can be avoided. Now, why is it so important? Because this mistake can be very costly. Let's say you have a startup and you've been in business for a year or two and you have 10, 15 or 20 employees, and you classified 5 or 10 of them as exempt managers. And then at some point a group of them or several of them bring a claim for unpaid overtime because they learn about this exemption law and they believe they're not properly exempt. If they win, you will have to pay each of them for every hour that they worked over 8 hours a day or over 40 hours a week. You'll have to pay extra for every hour that you didn't pay them, plus the premium for overtime. And it can go back up to 3 years, and in some cases even 4 years. So it can be quite expensive, and therefore it's really, really worth looking at your managers and making sure that they're properly exempt as early as possible, rather than waiting when the claim hits and then you have to deal with all these huge expenses. Avoiding this type of situation is much, much easier and much, much cheaper than dealing with claims for misclassification and for unpaid overtime later. Thank you.